Welcome to the Carpenter's Desk. A news emerged last week. The Indian lyricist Javed Akhtar wins the prestigious Richard Dawkins Award. The prestigious award? Well, that's what at least the Indian media called it. Some called it the very prestigious award. And there were some headlines that read Javed Akhtar becomes the first Indian ever to win the Richard Dawkins Award. Now, I know the person Richard Dawkins. He's obviously the most popular atheist in the world today. But well, I've never heard of this award. Am I the only one? Then we checked. And apparently, apart from Indian news channels, we haven't been able to trace any international reporting of this particular news. And if you're able to do so, please leave a link in the comments. Now, what about the previous awards? So we did a Google search on Ricky Gervais, the comedian who won the award last year. Ricky Gervais wins the Richard Dawkins Award 2019. And this is what we found. So is this award really a prestigious award? I mean, if it was prestigious, then you would have expected to see some international reporting of this news, either this year or at least in the last couple of years. Or it could be the other case. Has the Indian media added some prestige masala to the award? And what about calling Javed Akhtar the first Indian ever to win the Dawkins Award? Well, that kind of seems or kind of pushes an idea that this is an award that has an international list of recipients. Apparently, we checked, and this award has been predominantly won by Americans. Almost all of the recipients have been Americans. Last 2 years, it has been Englishmen. So, can you really call it the first Indian ever? And is this award really a prestigious award? An award that has been won only by atheists, most of whom who belong to the militant new atheism camp. Would you call it a prestigious award? Okay, so that was all about the prestigious award. But now first let's talk about the recipient, Javed Akhtar Saab. Now Javed Akhtar is a beautiful lyricist, he's an artist, a poet, a person of good repute. I agree with a lot of his social commentary as well. I really love him for the artist he is, so this is nothing against him. But about his atheism, we've got a few cents to add. He's been going around giving these interviews ever since he received this award. And one of the interviews that he gave was titled Explaining Atheism. This was with the journalist Faye D'Souza. And this particular interview was even endorsed by the man himself, Richard Dawkins. He tweeted out about this interview with Faye. So what was the explaining atheism part of the interview? First things first, in a video that is titled Explaining Atheism, I was actually expecting Javed Akhtar to give some good arguments for atheism. But even after sitting through the 45-minute long interview, I was not able to jolt a single good argument down. So in this video, we're going to respond to some 5 assertions or kind of arguments that Javed Akhtar makes. Number 1, he says all faith is blind. Number 2, he says every religious person is 90% atheist. 3, he says religion or teaching religion to children is child abuse. Number 4, he asks this famous age-old question, why doesn't God, if he exists, stop suffering and evil? And number 5, religion, according to him, has contributed to most of the violence and evil in this world. Number 1, faith is blind, says Javed Akhtar. I think there is a semantic problem here. How does Javed Akhtar actually define faith? Listen in.
Faith is something that you have reached a conclusion without any proof, without any evidence, without any logic, without any witness, and without any rationale. If you reach a conclusion, if you accept a statement or a point of view without the help of all this, in total absence of all this, that is faith. If there is a witness, there is an evidence that it is belief, not faith. They say blind faith. I think it's a wrong term. Faith is blind.
So after having defined faith, now he goes ahead to destroy faith. right? So if that is how you define faith, then you are right, but that is not faith. This is typically called a strawman fallacy, when you set up a caricature of your opponent's argument and then try to defeat it. How do you actually define faith? Listen in to the Christian philosopher William Lane Craig.
I think the best definition I heard of faith is trusting in what you have good reason to think is true. That's what I would define faith as. Faith is trusting in that which you have good reason to think is true.
So there it was. Javed Akhtar setting up a straw man and knocking it down. That's not a good way to argue, by the way. And then he uses some illustrations as well, some really poor illustrations. Like he says that, well, I can go and check that the North Pole does not exist. But what is he trying to show there? I mean, is he trying to say that he needs some material evidence for God's existence? God, by definition, is immaterial. But then what is the evidence that you have for atheism? Well, then the atheist will claim, or the skeptic will claim, that, well, it is the theist who is making the affirmative. We are not claiming anything. Well, the claim of the atheist that God does not exist is also a claim. Therefore, you have to prove that negative. In other words, the principle states that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. You can, by the way, prove negatives. The classic example would be, in economics, you have the Arrow's impossibility theorem. So, what is your evidence for atheism? Apparently, he doesn't provide any evidence or arguments for his own position here. But then he gives another poor illustration, that of being the cousin of Bill Gates. He says that we are deluded. I don't even understand what is the point of that illustration, but I think he's kind of pointing out, like the Richard Dawkins book title goes, we're all deluded, this God delusion. But, the claim that faith is not grounded on evidence, on logical arguments, is absolutely uninformed and naive, right? You can check out some of the links that I'm giving in the description box. At least the faith that I have is rooted in historical evidence, logical arguments, and a good wealth of scientists and philosophers and academics to back it up. Now let's look at his second assertion. He says that every religious person is also 90% an atheist. Now it seems that not only is Javed Akhtar getting the definition of faith wrong, he's also getting the definition of atheism wrong. Atheism, by definition, there are variants of this definition, but going back to its root terms, it is atheos. It is rejecting the idea of God. So I am fully a theist while rejecting all other religions apart from Christianity. A Hindu can be a fully theist by rejecting Christianity and all other religions. In fact, truth by definition is exclusive. This has to do with what is called the law of non-contradiction. In other words, if I am accepting a proposition to be true, by the virtue of accepting it, I am also rejecting all other alternative propositions. For example, let's consider the Big Bang theory of cosmology, right? Before the Big Bang theory, we had the steady state universe theory. And similarly, to explain several scientific phenomena, we have many competing theories. But when one theory gets accepted by the scientific community, by accepting it, it is also denying the alternative theories. So all religions and all faith systems cannot be true at the same time because they make contradictory claims. Therefore, I am by virtue of logic right when I accept one religion. Therefore, I am fully theist while rejecting all other religions. Now moving on to the next allegation that Javed Akhtar presents. He says that teaching children religion is child abuse. This is a blanket assertion where he's offering no evidence at all. Actually, he's pulling this claim from Richard Dawkins' most popular book, The God Delusion. A very tall claim that if let's say you're a Hindu and you're teaching your children the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, or you're a Buddhist and passing on the teachings of Gautama Buddha, or a Christian teaching your children the Bible, you are engaging in child abuse. In that case, majority of parents across the world are abusing their children. Now, ironically, Richard Dawkins himself released books like Outgrowing God and The Magic of Reality, which was aimed primarily at children. So is that not child abuse? In fact, there are studies, by the way, and we're not going to ride on the wheels of these studies, but there are studies like the one by Harvard University School of Public Health in 2018 that shows that religious upbringing can in fact have, can lead to better health and well-being of children. I'll leave some links in the description. Now, these studies set aside, is this really an argument itself? Notice the words of Will Jervis, a psychology professor from the University of Kentucky. He says that a lot of religious folks assume that religion would be good for kids and atheism would be bad for kids. A lot of prominent atheists like Javed Akhtar and Richard Dawkins, they would assume the opposite. They are both probably wrong. Moving on, Javed Akhtar actually raises the age-old problem of suffering. Watch this.
But when things get really bad, when something scary happens, when you're really worried about someone you love, then we all turn to whatever we think is God. And we say, oh God, I hope this doesn't happen. Oh God, I hope this person is safe right now. What do you do on those days?
I mean, I also wish that it doesn't happen. But at the same time, if your person, your dear one, is in a bad condition, why don't you at the same time think who has put this person in this bad condition? Who is responsible for this? If there is a God who can cure this person, then the same God must have put this person in this disease. If everything happens according to his wish and he can intervene in this problem and solve it, then who has created this problem?
Notice that Javed Akhtar actually does not have a response to the question that Faye raised, because in atheism you do not have an answer to the problem of suffering. But let's say there is a God, God exists and Christianity is true. Then there is more to life than just mere suffering. If you do not consider the afterlife, then the Christian paradigm is not complete. Let's say when I was a child, someone snatched a toy from my hands, I started crying. But at that point of time, I experienced suffering, but eventually that suffering stays behind. I do not remember that particular incident now. Or consider a woman giving birth to a child. Enormous suffering at that point of time, isn't it? But when the child grows up, gets a degree, gets a job, the mother is all happy for her. So see, suffering is diminished in the light of eternity. Not just that. Actually, Javed Akhtar just gave a case for God's existence. The atheist turned Christian philosopher of the 20th century, C.S. Lewis, states that while he was an atheist, his main argument against God's existence was suffering and evil in the world. But then he writes that, well, what was I comparing the world with when I said that there is suffering and evil? He states that, how do you know that a line is crooked? You know a line is crooked because you have the sense of a perfect straight line. So if you're saying that there is evil and suffering, you are assuming a perfect goodness or a perfectly good being, which is God, comparing to which you say that there is evil in the world. In other words, God exists. The next one is a very popular atheist objection. Listen in.
You see, there is no religious group that is devoid of such sins and such crimes. They have obviously done things which were not desirable, which were barbaric and which were totally anti-humanity, humanism. Although they say that we preach humanity, we preach humanism, but the fact is that you look at the history of any religious missionary or religious mission, and you will see so much of violence in it.
So if Javed Akhtar is saying that religious people have committed violence, I would say yes 100 times over. But that doesn't prove a causation between religion and violence. At least Christianity doesn't teach violence. Christians have committed violence. That's a separate thing. But notice this, that let's say tomorrow there is a world in which there are no religions. Are you saying that there will be no violence then, or violence will be less then? Can you prove it? Actually, no. Because as human beings, we are endowed with free will. And as free creatures, we are free to choose evil in as much that we are free to choose good. It is the human nature that allows the possibility of violence and evil. Now, on the flip side, I wouldn't say that atheism causes violence, but let's consider this, that the 20th century was the bloodiest century in history. It was the most violent century. Now, it was Karl Marx and Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, who were the key influences behind the thinking that shaped the 20th century. It is considered that the fascist of the mid-20th century loved Nietzsche. He was so adored by them that Hitler gifted Mussolini the complete works of Nietzsche for his birthday. and the Nietzschean ideals influenced the Nazi soldiers. On the other side, Karl Marx, again an atheist, he influenced the communist China and the communist Russia. And if you add up the numbers that these regimes killed, it far outweighs the previous centuries altogether. The Nobel laureate in literature, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, after receiving the Templeton Prize towards the end of the 20th century, looked back up on the horrendous crimes committed in the last couple of decades, and this is what he remarked. He said that this is because men have forgotten God. Having debunked Javed Akhtar's atheism, let's move forward. I can understand that he could not give good arguments for atheism because he's not a philosopher per se. But as an artist, I was quite surprised to see him say this.
This art doesn't stem from their faith in God. They were artists anyway. If they did not have God, they would have made something else. They were creative people. Since they were religious also, so their basic talent, their creativity got channelized this way. You know, if there would not have been any Christianity, you think there wouldn't have been any Michelangelo? Of course, Michelangelo would have been there. And he would have made some other sculptures. Maybe he would have painted some other ceiling. But Michelangelo did not develop his talent because he was a Christian. He was a great artist who happened to be a Christian.
Really? That's very naive to say that there is no connection between an artist, his work, and his prior belief system. Consider the work of Fyodor Dostoevsky, his classic The Brothers Karamazov or The Crime and Punishment. Could something like that in literature have been produced without the author's prior religious beliefs? Consider Bach, the musician. Consider Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel that depicts the biblical stories. Do you think that such works of art could have produced without the artist and his religious beliefs? Considering all that we have discussed so far, this is what we want to ask Javed Akhtar Saab.
What is the proof? Why are you believing this? It is totally nonsense. Do you have any evidence? Do you have any proof? Do you have any logic? Do you have any witness?